Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Spilling the Tea Leaves podcast with your hosts, Rachel and Michelle. We are going to be talking about spirit guides today, all different kind of guides. What you may run into out there in the spiritual realms, what form they may take. Is it your ancestor? Is it an angel? Is it the dog next door? Yes, 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 and
Many.
yes.
There's so many.
And how to work with them, how to get messages, how to speak and receive answers and questions from them in a way that is really comforting and useful and helps you along your path. So hi, yes, I'm Rachel. I am at CottageonWolfLane on Instagram and Animal Intuitive, and I am here with Michelle.
Hello, I'm Michelle. I am a crystal Reiki master. And you can find me on Instagram at Remember Love. You can find me on Twitter at The Remember Love, or you can find me online at rememberlovehealing.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The two of us, no, we put in quite a bit of spiritual, I don't want to say work, because it's a labor of love, and it's something that we would be doing on our own and together as friends anyway. So as we put together our podcasts every week, we do quite a bit of research and kind of just thinking about where we want to go. But I have to say, this week was actually the most research intensive thus far, and it's just because there's a lot of information out there, and we want to make sure that especially those of you who are really new to some of these terms and ideas can come in and kind of sit at the table and dip your toes in a way that's really welcoming and lovely, and feel like this stuff is pretty accessible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know sometimes we say a lot of, we throw a lot of terms out there for you guys, and we hope we're not losing too many. And if you need us, pause it and take a moment to look it up. Or if you have just don't know what something means, we usually try to catch ourselves and define it, but we are trying to do a much better job at being as specific without bogging you down with so many details, because there is just so much information, and there's so much background. And this podcast, or this particular episode, I feel like it's going to be a pretty heavy is not the word. I just feel like there's going to be a lot of information. So I hope you guys are ready.
This one is definitely more textbooky than our previous ones. And again, it's only because there's so much information, and we're always very excited about it. But this one, there are a lot of different terms and ideas that we'll be discussing today. So without further ado, let's get academic, man. Let's jump in. You want to start with ancestors?
Yeah. So what are your spirit guides, right? So your spirit guides are sort of like your spiritual team, and they walk with you on this earthly plane, and they are there to help you and guide you, especially during times of crisis. And there are several types of spirit guides. The first one being your, these are souls that have lived on this earthly plane. So these are souls that have had a human form at some points, and these could be your ancestors, would fall under this category. Sometimes they are just souls who have passed on and have come back to help you or assist you. And some of these souls have connected with us in our past life, but have evolved, so they are no longer needing a human form to continue their soul evolution, if that makes sense.
Okay, and is that an ascended master, or is that something different?
No. That's something that's something different. So again, these are my beliefs, my teachings. There are many people that have different theories or different ideas on what spirit guides are, but this is pretty much the most broad definition I can give you without going into very specific ideas about vibrations and soul evolution and things like that. Now, so yeah, our ancestors fall within this category. So a lot of people do work with their ancestors or do ancestral work, especially during times when they're performing a private ritual or they're performing some sort of private practice. And they're there almost on a daily. And some of us have very strong, have like our core spirit guide team. And there are some spirit guides that come in and out as we need them. So during a particular moment, you might have a new spirit guide that you've never connected before come in, help you. And once you've done what you need to do, or once you don't longer need their help, they might stay or hang out, or they just might continue on to the next person. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
It's interesting. We've talked a bit about Adam Perry before. He's an intuitive artist, and one of the most fascinating parts of working with him was the way that he conceptualizes of and can actually render with colored pencil on paper all of these different forms of guides, and some of them are very human looking, and then some of them just sort of look like energy or honestly blobs for lack of a more articulate way to put it. But I was one of the coolest parts of my experiences with him was kind of in this way seeing and from a human brain to latch on to what Michelle was talking about earlier, how we can give names and forms to a lot of these different guides, but they come in a lot of different ways, and sometimes because we are limited currently by our meat suit and our human consciousness, it's even difficult to sort of conceptualize and accept the or even talk about these things in our human English, in this case, vocabulary. So I was really grateful for that experience with him, because it allowed me to, I don't know, get kind of more right-brained and talk about this. Now, in this case, Michelle and I are delightfully, but also somewhat, limited by language. So it's bear with us as we try to describe to the best of our abilities all the ways in which you can connect, but trust that we don't mean to exclude, because we recognize our human limitations in even trying to pin a lot of this stuff down. It's too vast, and it's
a lot. We're talking about things that are really hard to describe into words, and it's everything is energy, and it's really hard for our brains to kind of put something that's so not in physical form into words for somebody to understand, especially somebody who's just coming in. One of the things that I wanted to mention right before we move on to the next sort of guide is that most of our ancestors fill a sort of protector role or teacher role for us to help us during this lifetime. So I asked many of you, if you are, when you have your moment to just be quiet and be at peace, try to connect with your guides, especially those that have been in your lifeline, your ancestors, because they are there to help work with you and teach with you. As a matter of fact, I have, and messages come through, like we mentioned last episode, conversations or bits of conversation from somebody else. And a couple of, actually right after we filmed our last podcast, I was talking to one of my friends, astrology angel mediums, and we were talking about trying to connect. I don't know how the conversation came up, actually. We were trying to connect with working with very specific a cultural work. So working with things that have been our culture, in our backgrounds. For us, it's Latin American rituals and things like that. And my mom is Guatemalan, and I've always had a strong pull for pre-Hispanic healing. So Mayan culture, for those who are not familiar with the native in Guatemala. So working with Mayan culture. So there's not a lot of information out there. And one of the things, I did find a book called Jaguar Medicine, which I started reading. It just kind of popped up. It's only available on ebook. It's not available as a printed book, unfortunately. But one of the things that I was reading was that the Mayans work very closely with, brace yourself, not only herbs, which I love. I've always had an affinity to plants. They worked very closely with crystals and with a sort of energy healing that is very similar to Reiki. So I was like, I got chills and I was like, yes, I have been following this, what my ancestors have long ago worked with closely, and it's just kind of popping up again for me myself. So I was very excited to see that the messages that I've been listening to have been on point and spot on. So listen to your ancestor, guys. The other form, do you want to move on to the next one? The other
Yes.
form is angels. Now, I know depending on your ideologies and your belief, you might have another name for angels. Or I use the word angels because it's very broad and most people understand it. Now, angels, or you can call them just spirits, these are spirits who during the creation did not adopt an earthly body. So their soul work never required them to come onto this earthly plane. And instead, they chose to do their soul work a lot closer to the creator or to source. These are beings that vibrate at a much higher frequency. While we always have direct communication with source, they're in constant communication and are in constant communication with us via messages. And these are environmental messages. Sometimes, now the books that I have read, it might be different with you, Rachel, but my experiences has been that angels will never speak to you directly.
It's
don't have
through
the ability to
numbers
communicate with words. It's through
Okay.
numbers, through feelings, through songs, through the wind, through coincidences. And they work straight up with our feelings and our intuition. So knowing if we feel that something's wrong, that's usually a signal saying maybe we should get the hell out of Dodge, not sit there and figure out if our intuition is correct or not, just get out. And so yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that.
I have to say, and I put this out there, so you Michelle, and you good fair listeners can kind of understand where I'm coming from, but also just in case this resonates with someone else, I have a hard time working with and connecting with angels because of no, I'm saying absolutely not. I am saying that because of my upbringing and religious history, I find angels a little, I mean, no disrespect, hokey. It's hard, and I do, again, I want to put this out there because I do think that there are at least a handful of other people walking around who, and I try. I keep looking over. I actually have a beautiful crystal angel on my altar because I do want to connect, and I recognize that a lot of the hesitation is from me and from this kind of bogus-y idea of angels that I was fed as a kid, but I do want to put that out there, just so if there are other people who find it sort of difficult, or like there's one archangel called like Metatron, and it's
actually, that's the next one.
Like I find it's a little like again, and there are a lot of people who feel the same way about working with animals and spirits. And it's like, okay, Rachel, you and your raccoon have a great day. Like, so again, I want to, because we're all keeping it super open and super honest. So my work with and knowledge on angel guides is a bit lacking, and that's just because of I think the concept of angels has been co-opted by modern Christianity, and it's been kind of watered down and I want to say hallmarkized, which and a lot of us, myself included, need to kind of unpack some of that so that we can have a more come to the table and be willing to kind of be a bit more open to some of that. So yes.
I mean, I completely understand what you're saying, because sometimes I do struggle with just even the word angels, and if it makes it easier for the lot of you, if you just call them spirits, like spirits as in they knowing that they've never held an earthly body, it's usually a lot easier for people to, I guess, swallow that is the word, because most of us are coming in from a place that religion or formal religion has failed us. And there is this idea of like, oh, the angel with the halo and the beautiful wings, and that's not what it is. Like, yes, they can take on whatever form if they choose to present themselves to you in that way, but they're just energy. They're just energy. They're just like our soul is energy. They're just a soul that has never held an earthly body. So it's easier for us to kind of come to terms with it. But yes, angels have had this, like, I don't know. Yeah. When somebody says angel, I kind of cringe a little bit, but I know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And so I completely understand. It's a weird feeling. And it's a lot. And some people just choose not to work with them, or they just have another name for them. And that's okay. So whatever you choose to call them, it's completely fine. I did hesitate when I wrote angels. I'm like, oh, I know either something or something is going to be said, because this is and angels it's a very it's a religion heavy word, and all of religions have their version of an angel.
Yes.
But yeah, so
well, and I think
you
well, I just,
go ahead.
And that is one of the reasons why we come to commune weekly, is because we want to talk about some of these things, and it's not just going to be the stuff that we like to talk about or that is easy to talk about. Yes. Yes. So I for one am grateful to be able to come to a space and share some of that stuff so that we can build with each other and learn.
Yeah, I think angel, and an angel is a word just as a word to define what I'm trying to say with this, a spirit with no body. It's just an energy source. The next type of angels, because there is, I mean, this could be a whole episode in itself, right? There's like a hierarchy to the angels, or the best way I can describe it is like a vibrational frequency, and there are tiers to them, correct? So I know a lot of people have worked or have heard the word archangels. Now these are they've been written in the Bible, and this is like a hierarchy. These are the angels that are closest to source or to God. I mean, let's not forget Lucifer, who's also angel up there at one point. Do whatever you want with that information. I know there's a whole other podcast, as a matter of fact. So these this realm, you have archangels, and archangels are sort of like the big mama jammas. They are the ones that work with the human collective as a whole. So kind of like the bird's eye view of humans, looking at humans. Now, these archangels, they are like the high messengers, I guess is the other word. But for those of you that do feel comfortable working with these sort of spirits, you can call on these archangels for your individual work, for your for your own rituals or your own practices, or if you're going through a time of crisis. They are, again, this is a vibrational speech, but they don't generally work on the same timeline. They don't have past, present, future. I'm closing my eyes because I can visualize it better. Past, present, future, they can be at more, they're like Santa, where they can be at like several places at once. Like stores can be at more than one place. You can call for help. They have the same ability that they can be at more than one place. So you can work with one specific archangel over the other. And if you if you do research them, and if this is something that interests you, each archangel is almost like assigned a very specific role. Like Michael works, I'm going to screw this one up. I'm not even going to say it. I think Michael works at like a breaking barriers or chains. Okay. And so, yeah. So like Michael or Michael, I think he has another name. Let's just call him Michael. They're also associated with days of the week. So Michael has Sunday, Gabriel Monday, Raphael Tuesday, Uriel Wednesday. I'm going to screw this one up. Salafiel Thursday, Ragiel or Jegudiel Friday, and Barakiel Saturday.
Okay.
And you can work with them individually depending on the day of the week or depending on what your practice is. But that is one type of guide that you do have on your spirit guide team, and that is angels, or if it makes it easier to swallow, spirits that have not held an earthly body.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But they're honestly just thousands. And one thing that I really do like that I've done a bit of research on is that and Michelle mentioned this a minute ago, but there are angels who are there's a sort of specific, so if you're looking for protection, like let's say you're traveling, or let's say you have exams coming up, or something, like there are very specific situations that correspond to specific specialties, if that's even the correct sort of way to put it. But there are angels who have dominion over certain experiences or rites of passage, so it can be very reassuring and comforting to know that in this particular instance you have someone who, you know, a spirit, a vibrational entity that is in a way very closely related to a very specific situation that you're going through, and that can be really lovely to kind of have that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next one, which Rachel mentioned, and this is gonna, hold on guys, we'll get ready put your seatbelts on. This is the next level is your ascended masters, gods and goddesses. So throughout history, I mean, if you look at Egyptian history, like you've had so many gods and goddesses that they've worshipped, and pre-Hispanic culture as well. And they all fall under this category. All right.
For those of you who aren't visually with us, I wish you guys could see Michelle. She looks, you know, we don't normally go into studious mode quite this deep, so watching her is kind of funny because you can tell it's I mean, it's a lot of info, and we're trying very hard to.
I don't want it to. I don't want to do a disservice either, or not provide accurate information, or completely massacre names that I've written down, which I probably will, and I apologize. I apologize in advance. So one of the other members that you can potentially have on your spirit guide team, or those that you can work with closely as well, that they are here to help, are your ascended master gods and goddesses. Now, these are those who have come to the earth. These are those that have been on this earthly plane and have ascended. So some religions call it, or some people call it, they've reached nirvana or enlightenment, or they have gone to that godlike level, or they have ascended. Now, these masters, once they've reached this level, come back to us or choose to stay or be at this position where they are able to teach us or offer assistance in order so we can reach that ascended level, or we can have a soulful evolution. And they're here. These are gods that have also been worshipped through time.
Okay.
We can call on them for help as well. So if they're not with us, if as a spirit guide or they come in and out, we can also call on them for help, because like angels, they do, or spirits that don't have never had an earthly body, they can be several places at the same time. We can also call them in individually to help us with a very specific goal. I do have a deck from our friend Doreen Virtue, and it's called Ascended Masters.
Okay.
She's not really our friend. And this deck is
that's another podcast.
This deck was recommended to me by a lady who had no idea who I was, and it was actually one of my first decks. And she's like, I kind of feel like you should be probably getting the Ascended Masters deck because it's resonating with that you need it. So I picked it up. It was on sale.
Okay.
And it's amazing. It's actually a really good deck. So it's just a deck of Ascended Masters. And the first card I pulled was the Crystal card, which I can't recall the actual Ascended Master attached to the card.
Okay.
But it does provide you not only with an education of different gods, goddesses, and masters and teachers, but it also gives you a little insight into the kind of work that they did or what they usually represent.
Cool.
Now, these in this list, I try to make this as a colorful list as possible, just to give you an understanding of the type of people that I'm talking about when I say Ascended Masters. I'm talking about Jesus, Oshun, Babaji, Merlin, Lakshmi,
cool.
which is a god, Saint Germain, Mother Mary, Paramahansa, Yogananda, Krishna, Buddha.
Okay.
So there are.
So it really spans. I mean, like culturally. Okay.
Yeah. These are people that have been here, that done it, and now I want to help you do it.
Okay.
Make sense? Yeah. So sorry. I know. I feel like I'm talking a lot. So like I said, you can also call on these masters to help you either achieve a goal, to help you overcome something, or call them in during your private ritual practices. And they're there to help you. Like they have made the decision of they have made a decision to come to this plane or this dimension to help us on a human level to ascend ourselves. Like they want you to come with them. Like that's what they want to express. Like we want you to come with us, and these are some of the things. And they have all come with messages. Like Jesus came with a very powerful message that transformed a lot of people. Whether this message has gotten a little bit rearranged is a whole other story.
Yes.
Yeah. So they have a lot of messages for us. And if you remove the layer of religion and other people's opinion, like you really can find almost like a pathway on how to achieve a soulful evolution.
And the aspect of Ascended Masters that I like too is that there's a connection with them in that they have incarnated. They've walked the walk, so to speak. They have an understanding of the human experience that I find really comforting to tap into. So there's this really lovely mix of having been here, having a lot of them have suffered as humans. A lot of them have been martyred or killed for their beliefs or the things that they shared. A lot of them have gone through things like childbirth and hunger and experiences that we as incarnate beings can tap into, and then see that there is a path to a higher vibration, a higher state of being. And for me, I find that really inspiring, if that's the right word. And connecting to an ascended master for me is, again, I like that there's that sense of shared experience. Yeah, like, yeah. Which
I know a lot of people, or a lot of women especially, connect to Mother Mary because of her. She was the first. I mean, well, let's not get into that. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of people that do connect to very specific ascended masters. And it just kind of gives you, for me at least, I appreciate that there's so many. I mean, this goes across cultures, across religions, across everything, and they almost all practice the same message of love and
unity, oneness.
Exactly. And no matter where you can drop a pin in the middle of the globe, and that message is also going to be there no matter where you come from.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Rachel, the next one I have is spirit animals, and I just wrote a big note that says Rachel. I did zero research on spirit animals because that is all you.
We've for those of us who for those spirit listeners who've been with us for at least a few episodes, you probably have at least a bit of an idea about what a spirit animal is. But for those of you who are new, it is working with any creature who is currently incarnate, or maybe past if it's a beloved pet, but generally they are creatures who are incarnate on this earth currently, who are not human. They can be anything from a horse to a spider to a jaguar to your beloved gerbil Henry. It's lovely because human beings generally find it easy to connect with animals. When you hear a bird song in the morning, when you look into the eyes of the goat at the petting zoo, I mean, it's a very easy kind of connection to make. To me, it's very accessible, especially for those of us who consider ourselves, to use kind of a newer term for me, baby witches. Like, you're new to the spiritual path, and it's kind of a fun and easy and natural way to connect. But there's a deep and powerful what Native North Americans call animal medicine with each different type of animal, and you can call on different animal guides to help you when you need to be strong, when you feel like you need protection. Then maybe a bear would feel quite comforting. Or if you are feeling like you need a bit of, let's say, diplomacy, or I want to say deftness, you might want something a bit squigglier, like a weasel or a fox, or something that's able to kind of maneuver and maneuver well. So there are lots of different messages and characteristics that different animals bring. And again, to me, it's a very kind of gentle and sweet but powerful way to connect. And it's all around us all the time. It's not something that you have to sit down in front of your altar and kind of think about. And again, not that I don't do that, or not that I think that that's not a good way to practice. I have many guides with whom I connect that are not animals. I often speak with ascended masters, or there are a few gods and goddesses in particular that I feel a strong connection to, or with. But with animals, most of us have the luxury of them being in our homes and them being outside. We walk out, and it's, so to me, it's also accessible all the time without a great deal of, let's say, effort, for lack of a better way to put it. It's a reminder. To me, it's like the web of connectedness, and it also, I think, helps humans can sometimes get a little, let's say, uppity about our station here on the planet. We have a way of thinking that a lot of us throughout history have. It's a sense of humans being sort of not better than, but sort of higher than on a mental or evolutionary place versus animals who are a much purer, less intellect driven energy. So for me, it helps remind me that humans are part of the web. It's not a triangle with humans being up at the top. It's a connectedness. It's a
tapestry.
Yeah, it's yeah. So there's so much that I get from connecting with spirit animals. But while I have the floor, I also want to give a shout, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, but again, to kind of round out in the first half of our podcast today, that the sort of types of guides. One of my main guides is a literal orb. It is a ball. And we so again, just to kind of round out as we finish talking sort of about the types of guides. Again, I want to reiterate that while there are lots of different spirits or animals or goddesses to whom you can connect and who are awesome to connect with, a lot of times it's not even going to come as a form or a name. It's going to, Michelle mentioned earlier, it'll come as a feeling. It'll come as a coincidence. It will come for me in the form of a red orb. And its presence is so comforting, but it is, and it's not amorphous. It's an orb, but it's, it's not a person. It's not an animal. It's not it is what it is.
It's not a body. It's energy. It's energy.
Yes, it is. And
energy.
And it's no less comforting or amazing to work with that than it is to work with any of the other types of guides. So keep an open mind. It's guides can come and float in and out and be with you in so many different ways, and it's not always the ways that you expect.
No, it's true. Everything, their energy, right? They can take a form of an orb. A lot of people, there is a whole subgroup of people who like to look at pictures, especially old pictures, and orbs are a very popular way for spirits to manifest themselves. So I'm not talking about dust, like the dust gets in front of the camera. Like these are very specific orbs. So if I invite everybody to just go into your closet and look at actual printed pictures. Sometimes they do come out on a phone picture, and look for the orbs. These are guides, these are ancestors, or these are spirits that are generally always around us. And sometimes there are spirits in homes that are very specific to that location. You can go into the whole thing about haunted houses and everything. That could be podcast number 755 because there's like a billion things we can talk about that. But yeah, it's comforting to know that we are always supported, and there is somebody, and that the universe and our guides always have our backs and our best interests, and that we can't screw this up. Like, we are all going to the same place. Like, we are on our way there. It just depends on how fast we get there.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really nice place to take our break. We'll let that simmer, and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
In a bit.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is the Spilling the Tea Leaves podcast with Rachel and Michelle. We are talking today a lot about about all the many incarnations, or if that's the right word, all the many types of guides that are available to us, and we barely scratched the surface. We kind of delineated ascended masters, goddesses, gods, angels, ancestors, animals. Do they all start with A? Like,
Oh wow, yeah.
yes.
Triple A. Yeah, triple
Yeah.
A, your angels, your animals, and your ancestors.
So that's awesome. And then we kind of ended the first half by reminding ourselves and each other that there's so many different forms, and both Michelle and I work with a lot of different spirits in a variety of forms. They come to us in different ways. So we wanted to spend this half of the podcast today talking about how we connect and what are some things that we do to maintain those relationships. What are some ways that we give out questions or messages? What are some ways that we take them back in, and kind of just see if there's anything for you guys to bite into there.
So before we start, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that everything is energy. We can get messages through any type of way, form of way. Just everything is energy. Plants are messengers as well. Crystals are messengers. I love working with crystals because they're something that I can physically hold and feel, and they do carry messages. And that's another podcast we can talk about. It's a lot. So everything is energy. And last podcast, we did talk about a few quick ways that we are able to connect with spirits. And we want to go through a couple of them again and then offer a few that we didn't mention. I don't know if you want to start, Rachel, with your favorite way.
I actually have a new way. Yes, this is, well, it's new for me. It's not new for the spiritual kid. This is not groundbreaking. Yeah. Like I've invented something. No, this is something that I have just recently started doing. Offerings. I was reading something recently, and again, I was aware of the concept of, especially for your ancestors, leaving a place for them at the holiday table, or pour one out for your homies. I mean, haha, that's quite funny. But like, yes, for people who have passed, offering them. No, it's true. A lot of this stuff makes its way into popular culture in what are sort of funny ways. But honestly, it's so I have just made a much more concerted, intentional effort to leave offerings for my guides, and it's not necessarily a meal, but for instance, I've talked a bit about one of my primary animal guides, Wolfie, who is a wolf. I made kind of so I have a picture of Wolfie on my altar, and normally it's there and it's in a place of prominence usually, or sometimes if I need it under my pillow or something. But I've recently kind of made this beautiful frame for Wolfie, and it has and here in the southern hemisphere it's almost winter, so oak leaves are falling, and so I've been, Michelle will laugh, I've been gathering dead things outside. I've been bringing in a lot of leaves, and I've made kind of a little like frame that's sort of a nest for Wolfie. And again, it's something quite gentle and easy and sweet, but it's to show my appreciation. It's to show that I appreciate all of the things that Wolfie does for me. I appreciate the protection and the guidance, and just the comfort of Wolfie's presence, and making a gift for your guides is a really loving and sweet way to honor them and connect with them, and let them know that you appreciate what they give to you, and that it's a two-way street. I find that the more I give to my guides, I get so much back in return. So that's something that I've recently started doing. Have you done that, Michelle?
But I will now. Thank you. No, it's actually so this it's perfect that you said that, because one of the things that I was going to mention was performing your own rituals. And that sounds like that's your own personal way to connect. No matter what we say here, no matter what you looked up online, that's like a private ritual that you can do to not only show gratitude. And when you show gratitude to the universe, you get, I'm not saying this so it could happen, but when you do show gratitude to the universe, you get good back as well. Like it's an energy that you're putting out. You're putting in an energy of gratitude. So that kind of does work both ways. But when you do perform your own rituals like that, you create this practice of connecting with your guides. And I would love, I would ask everybody just to create your own private rituals like Rachel. Just if you have an altar or a sacred space, it doesn't have to be like this grandiose thing. It could be like your nightstand. Please don't put like your junk on there. Like keep it like a nice little area. And I put my junk on my nightstand. That's why I wouldn't do it on my nightstand. I do it somewhere else. But yeah, just have a little space where you have your favorite picture or collect dead things like Rachel does, or like I do have a pretty crystal, or whatever you feel helps you connect. And when I say crystal, I want to make sure that I can clear that you don't have to spend a lot of money on a stone. You can connect with a stone that you find outside during your walk. You can find a seashell on the beach that you're just like, God, that is a really pretty seashell, or that is a really pretty leaf that it fell from this tree. And just say thank you, and you can put it on your space to remind you of whatever it reminds you of having gratitude in your heart, or remind you that your guides are there if you need something. And when you don't need something, that's the other part we should remember, that even if we don't need anything, just have that open communication. Like, you know what? I had a really good day today. Thank you. I caught all the green lights today. Thank you. Just say thank you for random things. I got into this habit. I don't know why I got into this habit a long time ago. I've been doing it as long as I can remember. When I turn off a candle, I say thank you. Thank you for providing me light. Thank you for giving me warmth. I don't know why I've done that. I've done that my entire life. I just, whenever I turn off a candle, I say thank you for your light. And that's just like a quick, like, oh, thank you for your light. Thank you, universe, for providing me this little piece of little energy. Is that weird? I feel like that's a little weird.
No,
but
it's interesting. I do the same thing, but with my house. We are currently, I think I've mentioned, we just moved to New Zealand a few months ago, and we're in a beautiful old house that we're renting, and I'm just so grateful for this sweet little house, and I always, at least once or twice a week, just like I just kind of like rub the door jamb. Thank you for supporting us, house. Thank you for keeping us warm at night. Thank you. Like today it just poured down rain, and I was sitting there thinking, like, thank you, house, for keeping us dry. And like I wouldn't consider the actual physical structure a guide. However, there is an absolute energy. Michelle mentioned how everything is energy, and for me, having a sense of gratitude for this beautiful protective shell. I mean, like a lot of times, like like when my kids are going to school, I'll sort of like mentally cast a protective shell over them. I literally have that, and a lot of people don't. I'm so grateful for it. And I, like with Michelle and the candles, it's warmth and light and a home. These are lovely, lovely things that make our lives on earth really nice and comfortable and safe, and having a practice of gratitude absolutely invites more support, I think, from your guides. Not that it wasn't there already, and I think actually that's a good place for us to make a distinction. On days when you're stomping around and having anxiety or anger or whatever it is, and you forget to connect. You sort of you put those walls up around you, and we all have days like this. It's not that your guides aren't there. It's that your energy has become, I want to say, inaccessible. I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. Instead of, yes, you have stepped out of the energy of your guides, and it's not that they're not there for you, but they can only go so low with you. Is that kind of,
Yes.
I don't even,
Yeah, I mean, no, I get what you're saying. I feel like when you no longer are hearing the messages, for example, if I tell you, if you want to buy and I've read this example somewhere, so this is not my original idea, but if I tell you I want to buy a yellow car,
okay,
and you tell me, Michelle, I've never seen a yellow car on the road. It's not that that they don't exist, it's that you're not paying attention. So when you are in a mindset where you are not listening for the messages are always there. The communication is always there. Just your perception or your mindset has shifted. So you are no longer paying attention to these messages. And I bet you every single person listening to this podcast right now, when you go outside today and you start driving, I will bet you $1 that you are going to start seeing a buttload of yellow cars. There. And I use yellow cards as my own personal messages. Like if I'm not paying attention and I see a yellow car, I'm like, that's good. I got you. I'm here. Like it kind of shifts my attention to, it gives me the opportunity to check in. Like, am I here? Am I present? Am I listening? Am I in a good headspace? Are my thoughts in gratitude? So the messages and your spirit guides are always there. They're constantly communicating with you. But if you're not in the mindset, if you're so, and I understand life happens, like we get preoccupied with things. I'm not saying that you're constantly vibing high. We're not about spiritual bypassing, like everything is love and light. We get that. But know that the messages are there, and they want us to hear, whether we hear them, whether we listen, or whether we're hearing it but not listening, if we're paying attention, they're there. We just have to shift.
Yeah.
We're just shifting. Two other things I want to mention, because this is running later than usual. This might be one of our longer ones. When you have a question for your guides, because sometimes we do have questions, like we want a clear answer, like, yo, is this happening or not? Like, are we in this? Should I do this? Should I not do this? Like, give me a message. We need to be clear what our question is.
Yes.
And we need to be unattached to the answer. Because when we are attached to an answer, Rachel.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
When we are attached to an answer, we will not listen to the true message. When we are in touch with the answer, we can hear the message clearly. Because if we are unattached to the answer and the message comes in with the answer, and it's not the answer we want, we will miss the message completely. So if you say something and you say, if I don't see a rainbow in the next 3 days, and you don't see a rainbow in the next 3 days, you got your answer. Yeah. So be unattached to the answer. And I think that's a thing that we get hung up on a lot. Like, we know what we want. We know what we need. And then we don't listen if it's not good for us. If the door closes, for example. If the door closes, that means spirit has something else for you. That means there's something better coming, but you don't focus on the closed door. That's your answer. That's your answer.
Ooh, it's so hard because ego gets in the way. It's well,
that's part of our experience too.
It is, and we humans have ideas and um, egos, and part of that is, for us to kind of play with and navigate here on the earthly plane. But yeah, it can be pretty humbling to put that aside when, for instance, if I'm looking for answers, a lot of times I go to my tarot deck, and sometimes my tarot deck just calls me out, and I literally I tend to look at the ceiling, and because like I always think of my guides as being sort of up above me, and whether that's accurate, I'm not sure, but I'll just sort of look, and it's like, okay, just stop trolling me. I hear you. I don't want to hear you. Like I don't
Yeah.
want this. Like and it's funny sometimes, like when I do sort of need a specific answer, and we chatted a bit about this before. Like I tend to use automatic writing or my tarot deck for answers. And it is hard, because our higher selves or our guides do often want to help us grow and evolve, and that is not jiving with what we want to have happen in this moment. And yeah, man, I don't know what to say other than it stings. That's a hard place to be. And we've,
And that's normal.
yeah.
That's part of the human experience. Like we look at that, wow, I really wanted that job. And if you don't get it, we get bummed out, and then we start shifting away from our messages, and then we start spiraling into like the sort of circle. And knowing how to turn the other way and know that there is something better for us, and shifting our attention into the messages that we know there is something better coming.
Yeah.
What Rachel mentioned, the tarot and the oracle cards, is another great way to connect with your spirit guides. They do a lot of messages through tarot cards and oracle cards. And pay attention when you do get your deck, if a card jumps out at you, because those are usually those messages that you need to hear immediately. They might not even be related to the question that you're originally asking. It's something else entirely.
Yeah.
And
true.
It's a message that needs to come in clear for you in that moment. What's another way that you use to connect?
Well, it was interesting when Michelle and I were doing a little bit of prep for this podcast today. It was funny because there's something that both she and I do that has a name, and we didn't realize it actually had a name. So I'm sure a lot of you do this as well. Especially if you're an avid reader like I am. I have 800 million books, and okay, well, I'd like, for instance, I have a book on spirit animals, and sometimes I just, okay, like what do I need today? The situation is difficult. What can I connect with? What can I latch onto right now? And I'll just flip to a page, and it's like, oh, the blue-beaked buckback, yes, and like the which is very, it's like a Harry Potter Fantastic Beast type thing there, but that is called what? Bibliomancy,
which is, the definition is opening the book at a random page. Usually the book is sacred writing like the Bible or the Quran, but definitely not limited to this. My mom used to do this to me. My mom, I mean, she's like a low-key witch, right? So when I was younger, she also used to be like, Michelle, mija, when you have a question, just open the Bible and it's going to answer it for you. And I used to do that all the time. Like, crap, I had a bad day at school, and I would just like flip over the Bible, and it was usually clear, like the answer was there. So I've been doing this forever. Again, like Rachel and I had no idea this actually had a name, to like just opening the book at a random text. And it's usually, a lot of people say it's sacred text, but you can do it with almost any book that you have a certain affinity to. And like, I'm not talking about opening up a Stephen King book either. Usually a book about, a sacred book, a book that has spiritual meaning.
The Velveteen Rabbit. I did it yesterday with the Velveteen Rabbit. The Velveteen Rabbit is a beautiful children's story written in 1922, and it's about becoming real. Trust me, like there's so many woke children's books about animals. You guys, that is a podcast, right? But the Velveteen Rabbit, it's about being loved and becoming real and shedding the earthly. Anyway, like this is another podcast. But I actually did this yesterday with the Velveteen Rabbit, and because I needed something to latch onto, and there's something comforting to me about animals and this particular story. And yeah, so although I would argue that it is indeed a sacred text, it is by no means one that most people would refer to as a sacred text. So yeah, feel free to use whatever the Calvin and Hobbes compendium you have lying around. There are actually a lot of really woke answers in there.
Whatever book that you are, like, you will be called to a book as well, right? Like, maybe that Stephen King book does really, like, God, I know the answers. Anything going to flip through it. I love Stephen King, by the way, so no offense. I mean, I'm sure
Cemetery.
He has
my guides are telling me not.
Yeah, I'm supposed to dress like a clown soon. Yeah. Another one is that we actually didn't talk about last time was dowsing or working with pendulums. Okay. And that is I do dowsing a lot. I don't know why I didn't mention this. Dowsing, I have a lot of crystal pendulums. And it's like my quick yes or no as well. You don't need a pretty pendulum or like with the crystals and stuff like that. Like, you can grab a washer or a ring and put it at the end of a necklace. And a lot of people have different tactics to this. I'm going to give you like the quick one. Like, you guys can do this right now. Pause the podcast, pause the video, go grab yourself either a string or a necklace and a washer or a ring. Make sure it's evenly weighted. And one of the tactics is ask the pendulum to show you yes and ask the pendulum to show you no. So yes, it will swing one way. It could either swing left or right, up and down, or in a circle. And it could do it either way and the opposite for no. And ask your question. So what's the question that I do sell pendulum readings on my website at rememberlovehealing.com. And I get a lot of random questions like, am I going to get the job? Yes, no. Sometimes there's a maybe, like it's not clear or you didn't ask the question clear enough. Am I moving to wherever I'm moving to? Yes, no, maybe. So that's a quick, like, we used to do, oh my God. I've been training for this my whole life and I had no idea. A lot of people used to do this at school when I was in elementary school, and we used to do that to see if you were going to have a boy or a girl.
The pieces of paper?
That one. Well, that's another thing. That's another thing. That's another witchy thing, right? No, we used to grab the pendulum, and then it would go in a circle. You're having a boy, and it would go up and down. You're having a girl. And we did that when we were like in 5th grade. It was so weird now that I think of it. But we've been using pendulums since we were like 7. And but that's a quick way that anybody, let me say it again, anybody can do this. Anybody can grab a piece of string. If you like it, if it resonates with you, then you can like buy the pretty crystal. I have like 60 pendulums at home here. That's one quick way to talk to spirit and have them answer yes or no questions for you. And I think, Rachel, you have a pendulum too.
I do. I find, well, and no, well, I was going to say this after numerous episodes now, this will probably not surprise you. I don't use it very much, only because I almost never ask yes or no questions. I want like dissertations. I want like symposiums with my guide. So it's not that yeah, I'm like, okay, like, like, oh my God, like this today, my kids are sick, so I literally sat down and I'm like, okay, guides, tell me about illness. Like, it's not like I don't sit down like, yes, like, hey, like, will this happen? Yes or no? No, it's like, like, tell me the nature of everything, and also what do I need to put on the grocery list? Like, so anyway, so that's what like, so that's why for me it's no, but it's more about how you like to connect, and like I said, I want to sit down and have like chats. So it's
Sometimes I ain't got time for that. Like, I just need to know yes or no. Like, is this going to be over next week? Yes, no, thank you. And I'm out the door. Like, yes, if you want to connect with spirit and have like the whole experience. Like yesterday it was awesome. I put like spa music. I cleaned downstairs. I lit my candles. I sat at my desk. I worked. And I was like, yes, I feel good. I'm connecting. I have my cards out too. And it was wonderful. And then sometimes I'm like, I got to go put my laundry away. Am I going to Africa next year? Yes, no, maybe. And I'm out the door. And I'm like, great, cool, let's go. And yeah, it's just something. I just need yes or no. I don't like the long stories. Just give me the yes or no. That's all I need. That's all I need. That's all I need. And if I ask more, then I got it. Another popular way is scrying. And this is not one that I do. And maybe you have more experience with
I do. Well,
scrying.
And so scrying is simply looking at something, and we'll talk about the somethings, and finding messages in the something. So you can look at a crystal ball. That's sort of the like archetypal fortune teller witchy sort of thing to do, is the crystal ball. I don't have one. I wish I did. I think it'd be very sort of cool. I need like a velvet tablecloth at the same time. And right. But you can also like, if you're smudging, you light your Palo Santo, or and you can look at the smoke, and a lot of times you'll just, if you just relax, and again, without expectation of what you might see, look into any usually dark reflective surfaces. If you like your coffee black or without a ton of milk, you can sit quietly with a cup of tea or coffee in the morning. And again, just have a look. Nothing might be there, but I actually find that, again, I used to think that scrying was sort of a very like serious, you have to sit down and gaze into like a very special sort of thing that you only use for, and like, don't make it hard. Don't make it weird. Like, just, especially for those of us who actually are muggles and have children, and, like the car thing needs the, like, pour yourself a cup. No, really. I mean, like, pour yourself a cup of coffee, give it a stir, and just say, hey, I'm here. I'm open. Is there anything I need to know starting my day? If you are smudging, just take a deep breath, relax, and see what comes. So yes, I do actually do that, but it wasn't until I was invited, and again, I was reading something, and it was like, I learned fairly recently that it doesn't have to be a big spooky esoteric thing. It's just like, anything that you can kind of look into and be relaxed and open to what may be there is scrying. And it's a really cool way to get messages if you're open to it. I might try it. Yeah, no, it's really, yeah, especially when you're used to other things that, like with tarot cards, yes, there's a lot open to interpretation, but they're like each card has a very specific image or feeling to it. If you're using a pendulum, it's yes or it's no. A lot of times when you get messages, it's either in actual words or actual angel numbers. But with scrying, it's much more, in some cases, literally fluid, and so it's kind of a more loose way to connect, versus a lot of the other ways that we talk about, which are much more concrete, sort of, whether it's imagery or words. So it's, as you watch, and and it's also ephemeral, like the smoke, the wisps of smoke burn up and then they're gone. And so it's kind of cool that way, because it's much less, again, concrete than a lot of the other things that I think we've mentioned. So it's a really cool way to connect.
Okay, I might try it now. I'm gonna light up my Palo Santo after this is over. So I'm gonna go through these real quick too, just because we are almost out of time, or if not out of time, and if you're still with us, God bless you. Last time we've also spoke about just listening to messages like song lyrics, casual conversations near us, email book. Spirits often deliver their messages via these messages. We just need to listen and pay attention to our feelings and our intuitions as well. Dreaming was the one that we spoke about last time too.
Yep.
If you need help with dreaming, placing an amethyst crystal near your bed can help open your third eye and increase your intuition and helps you with memory recall. And one that I wanted to go real quick, that this is also something that you can do today, as a matter of fact, guided meditation. So meditation, a lot of people have trouble meditating on their own. There are guided meditations that can help you. YouTube has tons of them. And there are some meditations that are specific to meeting your spirit guides. And sometimes we like to give our spirit guides names. You can name your spirit guide whatever you want. And then sometimes the guide tells you what their name is. Yeah, so sometimes you can hear them telling your name. You can sometimes they just don't tell you what their name is, if they have a name, if they don't have a name. But there are videos on YouTube that you can look through, and these guided meditations can help you connect with your guides, whether your ancestors, or just somebody that you've known in your past lifetime. That's one way that I've met Charlie. I've seen Charlie through a guided meditation. And
cool. I didn't know that.
Right before that, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to look for the video and then link it on the bottom so you guys can click on it. It was you're walking through the woods, you have no shoes, feel the moss on your feet, open the door, and there's your spirit guide. And it's kind of like I don't want to say hypnosis, but you're just kind of letting your guard down and filtering. Right before bed, I like to listen to it because I feel like my guard is down. The house is quiet. Everybody's sleeping. I can kind of do it on my own without having interruptions. So guided meditation is a really good way. If you need help, if you really want to connect, like if you want a name, if you want to see your spirit guide, maybe sometimes they're not always there. There are videos that can help you get there. And if you don't get there the first time, give it another try or try another video. Maybe it's easier to connect with somebody else's voice guiding you through it.
Yeah. Cool.
And I think that is it.
Yeah,
right?
we chatted a lot today. We could actually keep going. We need to cut ourselves.
I know we're cutting ourselves off. And like I mentioned before, don't put so much pressure on yourself either. Like, we're all going to get to where we're going. It just depends how fast we get there. But don't put pressure on yourself. Do what feels right. Do what resonates with you. Angels don't resonate with Rachel. They resonate with me. If you want to call it something else, if you have a different energy for it, just go for it. Whatever feels good to you, whatever you resonate with the most, go with that. If everything that we said sounds like pure garbage to you, then so be it. But know that you are, whatever your belief system is, know that you are completely and you are supported in more ways than you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good place to end it.
Yeah, man, I'm tired. Like,
I am
thank you for sticking with us, everybody. That was, yeah, I'm tired, man. I need like a sandwich.
I should have lunch in a little bit. It's like almost lunchtime here. Well, thank you so much for listening and sticking with us throughout these entire podcasts. It's clearly over an hour long now. My name is Michelle. You can find me at rememberlovehealing.com. You can find me on Instagram at rememberlove. You can also find me at Twitter at @TheRememberLove. And this is my beautiful friend, Rachel.
Hi, guys. I'm Rachel, an animal intuitive. You can find me on Instagram at CottageonWolfLane. Send me a DM. Send me pictures of your spirit animals. And I hope you guys will come back and join us next week. We're gonna be talking about some moon stuff. We haven't talked about moon stuff yet. It's gonna be fun.
Ooh, yes, let's do that. So you can find us, the dynamic Spilling the Tea Leaves duo, at our website at spillingthetealeaves.com. You can find us on YouTube. Just search us Spilling the Tea Leaves, and you can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And I will also have some links on our website, spillingthetealeaves.com. Please share us. Please leave a comment.
Yay.
Subscribe if you need to subscribe. We'd love to hear feedback. So if you have any questions, you can also email us at spillingthetealeaves@gmail.com. And we are done. We love you. Spread light, spread kindness.
Bye, everybody.